A huge dark piece of cloth hung over your entire body like you were a shameful statue. And imagine that you are being encased in this bedspread. Imagine that it is hot, very hot. Imagine there is only a drop of light, enough to know that there is still daylight for others. Imagine that you are reaching out your hand, which must remain covered, unpolished and unseen, though they will mash it or cut it off. Imagine that nobody is putting rupees into your invisible hand. They cannot see your face, so you do not exist. And I want to know how that feels. Blind entitlement, rampant power, all wrapped up in 6 starred and striped inches of bludgeoning penis. Korean waitress equals receptacle for GI sperm, sewer for American relief. What made her think that she could choose? Edwin Arter's muted group theory recognizes the absence of women and other peripheral groups in anthropological work. The theory explains that these groups were unable to communicate in a way that was recognized by the dominant group, falling into a trap of self-silence. However, the muteness of one group can inversely be seen as the deafness of the group that dominates. Through Under the Burqa by Eve Ensler and She Said No by Shiloh Patel, we see the incessant need to not only give voice to those who are muted, but to simultaneously ensure that their words do not fall on deaf ears. She said no, so I hit her. And then she fell down, and then I kicked her, and then I kicked her again. And I want to know how that feels. Blind entitlement, rage rises, fist in groin, torpedoes, belly sprouts 2 wings like God's own angels. Thunders bullets through hands and feet. And I want to know what it takes to beat a woman to death. Imagine that you cannot find your children because they came for your husband, the only man you have ever loved, even though that was an arranged marriage. Imagine that they came and shot him with his own gun and you tried to stop him, but they trampled you. 4 men on your back in front of your screaming children. Imagine that you went mad, but you did not know you were mad because you had been living under a bedspread and you had not seen the sun in years. And you remembered your 2 daughters vaguely, like a dream, the way you remember sky. Did she say to her son, yes, maybe if today I catch enough tips, we can go down to the village and see your grandparents and maybe buy your school clothes? I forgot. She's nameless, faceless, voiceless. Breasts, hips, vagina, slick black hair, slick red lips, and hold on. She said no. She refused to have sex with him. Did the earth stop turning? Did the stars and stripes freeze on the flagpole and shatter in the darkness? She was a gook. You already know the story. Why do I have to repeat it? He has a name, a gun, a rank, family, hometown, high school girlfriend. He's the hero. She's just a walk-on. So where did she get the idea that she could say no? Imagine muttering as a way of talking because words do not form in the darkness. And imagine that you did not cry when it got too hot and wet in there. Imagine bearded men that you decipher only by their smell as they check your socks and beat you when they are white. Imagine being flogged in the streets in front of people that you cannot see, and imagine being humiliated so deeply. But there is no air there. It gets darker there. Imagine no peripheral vision, so like a wounded animal you cannot defend yourself or even duck from the sideward blows. Imagine that music was banned throughout your country and laughter, so that the only sounds you hear are the muffled sounds of the Ezun and the muffled cries of other women being beaten in their dark, in their cloth. And I want to know how that feels when the story is you. Roots in your groin, strangles your intestines, blossoms to wings like God's holy angels, testifies righteous bullets through hands and feet. Bring in the scales. 6 years for McCarthy. 31 years of her life. Hold on. I'll add more to her side. Like the dream that she had last night, the ache in her feet from the high heels, the stack of history books by her bed, the strip of blue ribbon at her window, the scars that her mother has from her birth. Sorry, the scale says she was just a bar girl who didn't know her lines. Imagine you could no longer determine the difference between living and dying, so you stop trying to kill yourself because it would be redundant. Imagine that you have no home, that your only roof is the cloth. You are wandering the streets and it gets smaller and smellier every day. Imagine that you begin to walk into things, and imagine that you are suffocating while you are still breathing, and imagine that you are reaching at your hand and you are crying out and no one is hearing. Imagine. And I want to know how it feels, McCarthy, when the story changes. The slick red lips say no, and the faceless grow eyes that stare into yours. Does it explode your groin? Slice a bayonet of your belly, strangle your intestines, sprout to monstrous wings like God's avenging angels. Thunders bullets through hands and feet. Because the story must be restored. But the story cannot be changed. Because the story is about you. And who did she think that she was? Asian bar girl, yellow void. Where did she get the idea that she could say no? Imagine me inside the inside of the darkness in you. I am caught there. I am lost there. Inside the cloth, inside your mind. Imagine that you could see me. I was beautiful once, with big dark eyes and dark hair. You would have known me